Good morning, Tammy. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Saturday Morning PD with Tammy and Sheka. We are so excited to be with you this morning. If you are hopping over here from the podcast with Principal Hurt, I know that you are on fire and excited, just completely full of energy because he was absolutely on fire this morning.
He was.
Amazing information shared about what we have to do as administrators to be effective principals. Good morning, Principal Hurt. You were absolutely slaying it this morning. We appreciate
Definitely.
you. We are, as I said, so thankful to have you joining us and so blessed to be a part of this PLN that provides weekend PD for teachers and leaders across the country. We are so very fortunate. We know being sandwiched between two leadership giants like Principal Hurt and Principal Kafele are not things that we need to take for granted. So we are very thankful. And then we are so fortunate to be in that same lineup with Principal Josh Tovar from out in Texas, who will be with us on Sunday night at 7:30. So we are so again blessed to be in this lineup and want you to continue to join us because you really are getting some very high quality PD on Saturday morning. As I said, if you did not get to log on with Principal Hurt, you must go back and watch this because it was, as always, absolutely amazing. And I can assure you that this morning, Principal Kafele is going to be bringing it as well. So just make sure you stay with us as we come to you every weekend. Just honored to be able to provide you with some strategies and suggestions for how to make things easier, how to navigate this system that you are a part of. Good morning, Principal Kafele. Hey, Josh, we see
Good
y'all logging
morning.
on. Good morning, Rashid. We are so thankful to have you all with us this morning. He was on fire, Josh. I
He
was
was.
so just like, go ahead, Principal Hurt. We'll just defer to you today. You just go and do it. So this is today, our discussion is going to be on building equity through student relationships. And it was really good to hear those points that Principal Hurt were bringing this morning because it really does require leaders in school buildings today to have the courage to do the right things because it's not always easy to address those inequities that we see and that our students face from day to day. We again are going to be talking about that this morning and how building that equity through student relationships will benefit you and benefit your school. Good morning. We see that we have Christine DaCosta who's joined us and Robert Horton. Good morning, guys. Thank y'all for being with us. So what we're, like I said, going to be talking about is equity, and we want to talk about this through the perspective of what research has said. And this is research that is dated back to as early as 2009 when it was said that our schools are predicted to become more and more diverse. And by 2050, minority students will account for approximately 57% of the population. And we tie that back to a quote by Ron Edmonds from a speech all the way back to 1978. And please understand that that rings true until this very day. What he said was, we can, whenever and wherever we choose, successfully teach all children whose schooling is of interest to us. We already know more than we need to in order to do this. Whether we do it must finally depend on how we feel about the fact that we haven't so far. very powerful quote, because when you have to face that reality and you understand that we are doing a disservice to some of our students, you have to make it up in your mind to decide what your reaction to that is going to be. What are you going to do about it? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about this morning, because addressing inequity or equity in school is not a new thing. Some of the events of our present time have brought this more to the forefront. So we do see the inequities much more clearly than maybe we have paid attention in years past. But this is not a new thing. So what we have to do is we have to continue to work on it. We know that we have more and more English language learners coming into our schools. We have to provide the space that allows for us to provide equitable learning experiences for these students. Sheka, you're done. You ready for us to get started?
I am. Thank you for getting us started. And good morning again, everyone. Tammy, you are absolutely correct. And as I've stated before, Ron Edmonds, most of my research is backed from his research all the way from 1978. And it's amazing to me that this quote from his famous speech still rings true today, with the fact that there is still so many things that we need to do centering around equity as it relates to our students, and making sure that we are doing the right things for them. But according to the National Clearinghouse for English Language Acquisition, as you stated, Tammy, diversity is getting more and more profound. Many states are experiencing growth in culturally and linguistically diverse students. So for 24 states, just to show how much of a difference this is, there was an increase at least of 100% of English language learners, and then upward of 350% in several other states. But then when you look at how we're doing with addressing the linguistic, cultural differences, there's still big gaps in achievement. We still have high percentages of dropout rates. There's still high rates of teacher attrition. And our workforce in education is still 82% from the majority group. So what have we done? We've started multicultural education. We've started culturally responsive teaching, culturally responsive training in some areas. And this is something that Tammy and I have done at our own schools. A lot of it is a part of our work that we're doing right now. And we even had the founder of Multicultural Day on with us this past Tuesday, Mia Wingen. Did you want to talk about her a little bit, Tammy?
Yeah, it was really an honor to have Mia on, because Mia saw that there were gaps in the materials that were available. Good morning, Jasmine. For students, and what we were able to get from Mia was her passion for making sure that kids have access to those multicultural materials that will help them to have representation and to see not just themselves, but to see people who are different from them, because that is equally as important when you are putting those types of materials into classrooms. It does help for the children who are seeing images that look like them to see themselves, but it also helps for other people to see characters who are different maybe than they are, but are of the minority, so that they can understand that these characters are important. Because when you don't see the representation that has to be there, then that suggests that that is not quite as important as what you see more prevalently. And that's some work that Mia has done. And if you are interested, please feel free to sign up to be a book reviewer, or you can also be a sponsor for their multicultural book day event that I think it happens maybe in January. Sheka and I have been sponsors for the last 2 years and really support the work that Mia is doing.
Exactly, Tammy. And if you missed that episode, you can go back on our page and watch it, where it's a lot more information. But we were also really excited about Rudy Ruiz, who is a bilingual author that has a novel that talks about his experience living on the Mexican border, and his novel could actually be used in high school. So when we say that there's a lot of work to be done, we're a part of it by trying to bring resources that educators and families can use to make sure that, you know, our very heavy Anglo-Saxon curriculums are enriched with the things that represent our students, and not just a part of history that some people want to be told. And in many instances, we know that a lot of educators want to do this work. They don't know where to start. So there are 5 things that we have found, and we'll reference 2 articles that we have found that has some great information, some tips on where exactly teachers can start with this. And the first one is that teachers and students produce together. And that basically means that you're going to facilitate learning through a joint productive activity amongst your teachers and students. And the reason that this is helpful is because diversity is even so diverse now. You really, it's hard to just define it in one area because it continues to evolve. It's viewed through the multiplicity of an individual. So a student's skin color could be brown, but he could also speak, or she could speak, fluent English. So we can't just look at someone's outside and assume certain things. He or she may have blue eyes, but their primary language could be Cantonese. Interracial marriages are definitely much more prevalent now, but children also have cultural ethnic pride across both races. So you can't make assumptions. And what you have to do is make sure that you're building relationships with your students to understand what they're bringing to your classroom and what their background is, in order for you to be able to address that as their teacher. There's even diversity in family structure now. You know, and this has been for some time, all students don't come from 2-parent families. They may not live in homes where there's several books, or, you know, different access to things where they're being exposed. So there's a great differences that exist among the students that are entering your classroom. But as the teacher, you build your relationships with those students in order for them to help you build themselves into the curriculum. The second point was from these articles was to develop language and literacy across the curriculum. This is another big part of the work that Tammy and I work on with culturally relevant literacy strategies. Apply the literacy strategies and develop academic language competence in all subject areas. And what we know about our literacy rate is that a lot of teaching programs don't prepare teachers how to teach literacy properly. So we do offer a lot of great information and training for teachers on decoding to make sure that students know how to do this, and that as a teacher, you know these strategies.
Yeah, and one of the things Jasmine mentioned, Sheka, was that there are a lot more children who are homeless now.
Mm-hmm.
So those structures are very, very important as well, because sometimes we are teaching children who are coming from the car where they've slept all night, or in our area now they have this old motel where their kids are
Mm-hmm.
actually having to live. So you have all things to be considered when you're looking at what the needs of our children are. Also, just Shika, I was thinking when you were talking, one of the things that I think is really good about the work that Rudy is doing
Mm-hmm.
is that he does incorporate a lot of, like he was talking about the music that he
Mm-hmm.
puts into his stories, and it is really centered around his life growing up on that American Mexican border. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of just that whole premise of going into number 3. We are to make lessons meaningful for our kids, make sure that what we're doing connects the curriculum that we are teaching them to the experiences that they're having, and to the strengths that they bring to school from home, or the skill sets that are part of their community, capitalizing on those things. And one of the things that we made mention of was we could really address these types of things by hosting multicultural events where we involve the parents as well, so that we really are getting the full effect. And I love the way that that sometimes plays out. One of our best programs at my school, when we were getting ready for our going home for Christmas vacation before the pandemic, we had our international teachers who are from the Philippines to provide their cultural aspect of the holiday to the students and their families. And they had dishes that they served there. They also did an amazing dance that is a part of the culture there, and she taught her children to do the dance. They loved it. So it was a really great experience. So I know that tying that homeschool connection together will help to lay the foundation for, again, emphasizing how important it is that everyone is considered. And as Ron Edmonds saying, how important is it for us to make sure that everybody is getting what they need and learning?
You're exactly right, Tammy. And I'm really excited that our district, and Principal Hurt is right. Ron Edmonds is from Michigan. So there's a video too that I'll place in the comments when we're finished. But I'm really glad that we participate in the cultural exchange program, because we did something very similar at our school with our teachers who are from Jamaica as well as the Philippines. And like you said, just being able to sample their cuisine and seeing their dances and hearing how their political system is completely different from ours, is really a good experience to have. And it brings people closer together and opens your mind and broadens your mind to new
It
things.
does.
So.
And the thing that I think was important for us, sometimes when you serve in a poor community and those concepts are really honestly foreign, like you don't know what to expect. And so
Right.
it really levels the playing field. And parents were really, really excited to see, and not just see what the teacher was doing, but see what she had taught their children to do. And even when they were sampling cuisine, it was like, now they were talking about how and why those dishes were significant, and they were like, some of it was absolutely delicious, I guess, too. And they were like, now how did you say you make this again? So it was really an amazing connection. But I think it helps to, again, level set for everybody that we all have something to offer to this vast concept of a culturally responsive setting that we want our schools to be.
Absolutely, Tammy. And moving along, so we make sure that we are not staying our time today, to number
Yes.
4. The next point was to teach complex thinking and challenge students with cognitive complexity. And basically, as it matches to our framework, with Create and Educate's 5 super strengths, is that you have high expectations, and that is rooted in the correlates that Ron Edmonds came up with. Sometimes when we're talking about equity, those high expectations are not seen based on what people see and what their experiences are of what they think children can do based on what they look like or what zip code they come from. So we have to throw those things out of the window and make sure that we have high expectations and that we are operating from a premise of excellence for all of our students, no matter what those other things could be. And the 5th point was basically through teacher conversation. And this goes back to, again, those opportunities for dialogue that you talked about, Tammy. Engage students through dialogue, especially instructional conversation, building that background knowledge. We talk a lot about read-alouds and how powerful they are. And with literacy, when you have students who are not reading on a certain reading level, the read aloud is something that you can still use to build background knowledge, vocabulary, and expose them to things, but still keeping their interest, still relating to their culture, still engaging them in conversations through important topics.
Absolutely. And I saw on here that R.E.A.L. said that North Carolina is requiring letters training. And I think that South Carolina is doing the same thing. Sheka's actually enrolled in one of those letters courses right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have some really good information, R.E.A.L., that is very important. And again, as Sheka said, we are hightailing it out of here to get the principal to Pele, but we want to wrap this up with 2 points of our own that we are just wanting to leave with you. And I'll collapse these together. 6 and 7 really are about, as Sheka talked about, those instructional conversations. We just want to also help you guys to be mindful of the fact that you have to be authentic and organic in all the conversations that you have with your children and with your staff. Make sure that they understand that the discourse that you're having is genuine. You're not just doing this because we're telling you to do it, but you're doing what you're doing because they matter. Because when you establish those, because point 7 is respect. Respect is required and is so paramount into building these relationships, because if you do not have relationships and sustain them, you're never going to be able to maintain and have a balance that's required in order for you to be successful in your school. So we just encourage you to make sure that these are things that you are paying attention to as you move forward.
Absolutely, Tammy. And what we would like to leave you all with today is empowerment. Many times as educators, we wait to be told what to do when we already know what's right. Just do them. As Principal Hurt told us this morning, take the risk, stop waiting. And it really starts with leadership. School leaders must be intentional about building their cultures to address cultural responsiveness. This is including what you choose for your professional development that's selected, your school focuses, where your money is spent, what you set aside to supplement our very Anglo-Saxon rich curriculum, and how comfortable your teachers feel about incorporating what they need to. Then teachers can take it from here and institute what we've talked about here, explicitly teaching our students how to navigate a system that is not always equitable.
And we just want you to know that all of this simply begins by teaching everybody in your building to value, appreciate, and respect one another. And it is just the bottom line. James Comer said this a long time ago, but no significant learning can take place without there being a significant relationship. So please be sure that you are building those relationships and making sure that the kids know how you feel and that you are genuine in your thoughts to them. And I'll leave you with this. This is a quote from James Baldwin, who talked about, and this is a whole big thing. We'll share some of that information as well. But he talked about how kids are not able to learn from people who despise them. So please be sure that you leave your biases. I saw that in the comments earlier. Leave that at the door if you have them. Make sure that you devote who and what you are to your children.
Exactly. And as I close us out, Tammy, if you'll finish the rest of the comments that I missed.
Okay. Yes.
Everything we mentioned today, and I'm glad Tammy brought that up about Mr. Baldwin. She attended that conference this week, which was very powerful. Everything mentioned today is a part of our framework that we created as turnaround principles. Create and Educate's 5 super strengths to a real resilient school. And we offer leadership training for leaders, school leadership teams. We offer literacy training with the premises in mind that we've talked about and that are a part of our our framework. So if you have not pre-ordered our book, it doesn't have to be lonely at the top. Please do so today. It's on our website. I'll list that in the comments. We have a special going for pre-orders right now, and the book will be released in December. It speaks to our commitment to collaboration and leadership, which is why we are a part of this great PLN every Saturday and Sunday with Principal Sean Hurt, Principal Kafele, and Principal Josh Tovar. So please join us next on Principal Kafele's page, and we will see you guys next Saturday. We really appreciate you all's support, and thank you for tuning in.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you.